Starting to do a little bit better there. Okay, but today we're going to bring back Buddhist author von Galt to further explain the Buddhist explanation of what Maitreya Buddhahood or Christ consciousness is. She will explain how the Earth's Schumann frequency is moving into gamma waves in this next cycle of oneness from the last Earth cycle of polarity, and what life is like living in a fifth dimensional unity consciousness, plus how using synchronicities in your everyday lives produce even more Mandela effects. So welcome back, Von. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm good. How's everybody else doing?
We're doing wonderful. And, you know, they talk about Mercury retrograde. I'm not sure if that's ended yet, but maybe we're dealing with a little bit of that. So we'll go with the flow.
Just go with the flow. You never know which reality you're going to pop into.
Isn't that right?
So, yeah, I'm doing really good. So, glad to be here again and kind of dive deeper into this experience that we're all having in real time. Kind of work through it together.
Absolutely. And I want to mention that we had a caller on the Friday Night Love stream that got your book and loved it. So I did want to say that, give a little plug. And I do have your links below. So anybody watching this that wants to look more into your YouTube channel or your author's page on, look at some of the books you've written. And or if they want a session with you, a QHHT session, because you're actually a QHHT practitioner as well. So a lot to offer, Vine. I'm so glad you're back to further our discussion about the whole 5D aspect from a Buddhist perspective.
Yeah.
I love that.
So just for your audience that I'm new to, just a brief explanation. So how I got into this, I'm 40 years old, and I was raised in the spiritual tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, or Buddhism. And I'm very familiar with manifesting parallel realities through consciousness and having your personal awakening and ascension in the Buddhist tradition. So it's very familiar to me. And then about 20 years ago, I started to follow the works of many prominent Buddhist monks like the Dalai Lama and others, who were going into academia to provide themselves as a resource to get research into consciousness, mindfulness, and meditation, and how that can help people, live a more self-aware reality. And through that research, I'm very familiar with a lot of the scientific evidence that further substantiates this stuff. But I also got into energy healing because a lot of Western doctors were going into tapping into the gamma wave frequency of energy healing. And so I came across, I'm very familiar with Qigong and Reiki and other Eastern healing modalities through my studies. But I started getting into different modalities that were being created here in the West. And I came across Dolores Cannon's material, and I love that she was already talking about this stuff through her hypnosis modality and technique. And so, one of the things that a lot of the Buddhist monks growing up told me was that in the spirit world, I am a life planner. And it's just basically like, if you're going to go on vacation, you talk to your but you talk to your travel agent, or you talk to your career counselor to help plan your excursions. And before I became a practitioner, I got a couple of regressions, and that's exactly what my boring job in the spirit world was to plan people's lives. And they don't always listen to their advice of the life planner, but that's fine. But so I was like, well, that's interesting. And when I'm doing hypnosis practice sessions or hypnosis sessions in my private practice, I started to see that there was a lot of star seeds from different planets, a lot of indigos, of very old souls, a lot of different type of incarnations, a lot of people who had very unique jobs in the spirit world, such as spirit guides, angels, the great library librarians, life planners. There's all these different incarnations that for some reason decided to come and incarnate as a human being at this time. And it wasn't until, because I've been following all this work and found just fascinating for myself, just to try to raise my consciousness and manifest better realities for myself. But it wasn't until the 2012 ceremonies, or 2011 to 2012 ceremonies, that many indigenous tribes around the world and Buddhist monasteries around the world were doing to close out the cycle of polarity consciousness, seeing separation, and usher in the next 1,000 years of a galactic humanity through unity consciousness, seeing oneness and connection to all things. And so when I started seeing that, what I never anticipated was there was going to be mass awakenings of people. I thought it was just me, so I would play it off. So now that I see more mass awakening of people, and usually whenever the earth does a spike in her frequency and she raises her level of energy, more awakenings of people will start happening. So I started seeing all these people freak out about reality changing on them, and they would go into their churches, their families, different things, and they weren't really getting a lot of assistance because none of this stuff was talked about. So they really felt alone. And so I provided my QHHT, myself as a resource through QHHT. I provided a lot of information through 2011 to 2012 in blog articles, which you can also find on the website. All the blog articles were there. And I provide a lot of resources to help people so that they don't go and hurt other people as they're going through their freak out session with their awakening. And as Earth continues to raise her frequency, every time she does a spike in the Schumann resonance, more people will awaken and more people will need help. So every single one of us who are self-aware of this hologram is a resource for other people. And that's why we're helping each other through it.
Absolutely. And it's, I guess, why we really feel like it's been a divine gathering, because for many of us here on this channel, the Mandela effect sort of woke us up, and then we just resonated with one another. We felt this connection with one another. And I think it's for this very reason that you're talking about, that we are supposed to come together. We are supposed to sort of be the peacemakers or the beacons of light to help keep the peace and let everybody know, hey, it's okay. This is all part of the process. Relax. We've seen this happening for a while now, and just take it easy,
Don't go on a shooting spree.
Right.
One,
right.
Don't go on a shooting spree, and two, don't hurt yourself.
And don't hurt yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
But there are people who they're feeling very schizo because different realities are bleeding in, and they're hearing voices, and their things are not what they remember. Arguments and things are not what they remember. People aren't what they remember. Their spouses are different. Their families are different. They're different. And they just, none of this they were never prepared for this. Their traditions were never prepared them. And so they're having a very, very hard time. So one, keep your distance from those people until they simmer out. And then two, when they're ready, be available to explain to them what's going on. Because everybody who is of higher frequency and who is existing in this new level of experience is a resource to everybody else. So we're kind of keeping it from all falling apart.
Which is good, because one of probably the second wave of a shock for me once I saw the Mandela effect was happening is trying to talk to people about it, and they're like, no, it's always been this way. And you're like, wait, but you remember this with me, we did this together, and this is how things were. And like, no, it isn't. And then you're like, what planet have I dropped on? And, a lot of people feel like they've moved. We have moved. Our position in the actual galaxy has moved, and they feel like, the planet they were on is still back where it was, and now we've moved to this new alternate planet, and they just want to go back, but there's no going back. I mean, there's like looking...
And if you go back, you're going to be bored anyways. You're going to be bored out of your mind. Yes, you're being challenged right now, to learn to live in 5D and live in unity consciousness, and you're being challenged to live in this higher frequency. But if you go back, you're going to be bored and you're going to want to come back, and then you can't skip backwards.
Right. Keep moving forward. Go with the momentum of it. Right?
Because the hill is too high. You can't jump that high back up.
Right.
Just chill out and look for resources all around you to help you adjust and learn. We're having to unlearn the earth. And you can look this up in science through the Global Consciousness Project that does this, Heart Math Institute, other institutes now. But the Schumann frequency, which is the heartbeat of the earth, was always 7.83 hertz. I'm going to repeat this for people who aren't familiar with this, just really quick synopsis. And her heartbeat was 7.83 for a very, very long time. And then the Global Consciousness Project started mapping out her changes in her frequency in 1998. And you can look back at all the times in which she had a spike. And whenever they have like 70 or more random number generators that work like seismology, like measuring earthquakes when they're going to happen. And they put it all over the world. And what they found in over 20 years of research is like impactful events like 9/11, a natural disaster, major political changes that are affecting people, major changes in economies, just different things. What happens is, like animals, everybody in the area close to that random number generator starts having anxiety like animals that are expecting an impending natural disaster to happen. And what would happen time and time again is a big event in that area would happen hours later. And they've shown this time and time again with natural disasters, with political events, with economic events, with just you name it. And you can go through 20 years of data. And so why that is important is she used to be 7.83 hertz, and then she's moved. In 2011, she went up. In 2014, 2017, she went to 15, 30 hertz. In January, she went up to 50, maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure the exact numbers. But you want to take this like a TV, and this affects the Mandela effect for people who are not familiar with this. An old TV is 24 frames per second. Okay, it's a slow, gradual change in the frame. So you can see the changes as the picture's quality changes. But when you switch up to a higher frequency, higher hertz TV, maybe a new TV that's 60 to 120 hertz, the picture quality changes so fast you can't notice the nuances as the frames change. It's much better picture quality. Well, the earth is measured in hertz, much like a TV is. And so when she's at a lower frequency, you can catch the changes in the Mandela effect. You can catch the changes in logos changing, colors changes, warps in the reality. But when she raises her frequency up to 30, 40, 50, you're not going to catch those changes in real time. And so the only way you know that you switch into a new alternate parallel reality that's matching the frequency in which you emit is to seeing elements in your reality that you do not remember before, such as all of a sudden there's a new house in your road, there's a tree that was never there before. All of a sudden everybody's cars in the neighborhood is much nicer than they used to be. Whatever the situation is, your neighbor's dog is now a different color dog,
or even much closer to home.
Yeah.
Like maybe something your spouse never liked, all of a sudden they like it and have always said they've liked it. I've heard of things like this, like somebody preferred ketchup on their burger and now they prefer mustard, and they used to hate mustard, but now you're like, wait, you always hated mustard, and and they've like flip-flopped on things. And
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the Mandela effect.
Yeah,
that is the changes in your reality that's telling you just switched to new reality. So let me explain this. This is what keeps a lot of people in the lower realities, because they're afraid of losing the loved ones to a lower frequency.
Mm-hmm.
They've proven this in science thousands of times through the double split experiment, that you can take the same atom, split it up, put it in different places, and those two atoms will still communicate to each other. The same atoms in different spaces. So they can exist in parallel spaces and still communicate with each other. They've proven this with like the D-Wave technology, in which we can search the internet in all realities and get information and answers to our questions from the internet of all realities, because it doesn't, it exists in all realities. It's just energy with information. So, you know, when you look at all the scientific and technological evidence of parallel realities, we too are made of atoms. And so if you look at, I'm very familiar with Hindu, the Vedic, the 7,000-year-old Vedic text of Hinduism, which many of Hindu belief systems also fall into Buddhism, because Buddhism is an offshoot of Hinduism. So I'm very familiar with their concepts of parallel realities. And in Hinduism and Buddhism, it's basically this. There are multiple parallel realities and multiverses existing all at the same time. But you will only be aware of the one that is of the highest frequency, or in the frequency that you radiate at now. When you change your energy level and you raise your frequency, you no longer match that lower frequency, and now you're going to switch up to a better resolution, to a better reality that has a higher resolution. As a result, you switch up to the parallel versions of your family and your friends and your opportunities. Okay.
You know, I'm so glad you brought this up.
So you're not losing anybody. They're still getting you
right
in the reality, but you're not present in the other reality. You're present in the better reality.
Okay, so that explains why I hear so many people talking about how their health has improved as their vibes have increased. They're like, I feel so much more healthy now, because they're actually moving their consciousness into a higher version of their self, where there's less sickness, less ailments, and this sort of thing. Is that sort of how you look at it then?
Everything gets an upgrade in the higher dimensions.
Right.
Everything gets an upgrade, because in the higher dimensions, when you have a higher, because Earth is slowly moving into, and thank goodness Earth is not going to move into 5D instantly, because a lot of people will have a kind of a matrix shock. So we're kind of doing little by little. So whenever she has these shifts, people go with her as well. And some people may not. But because there are forks in the road right now, there are people who are still deciding which reality they want to radiate at, which level of frequency they want to radiate at. And so everything is getting brought up. It's like the universe is raising her sea level, and she's taking all the old gunk from the ground on the bottom of the sea and bringing it all up. So everything is being brought up to challenge you to work through your issues. So all your secrets, all your inner demons, all your fears and phobias, all your hang-ups, all your relationship issues, everything is getting brought up and amplifying in these newer realities, so that you can work on them. And if you don't work on them, they're just going to, because of amplification, they're going to compound and get so much worse to force you to deal with it.
So you can't run from it. That would be the opposite of what you want to do. You want to deal with it, right? Stick around and deal with the problems rather than trying to run from it, because it's just going to come up again in another way.
Yeah, exactly. I was just talking to somebody she had moved to Arizona, and she moved to Arizona because she was afraid of volcanoes. And so she made sure that she was not going to reside in a state that had volcanoes and botflies. She was definitely afraid of botflies. So she made sure that she didn't have that in her new residence. So she moved to Arizona. And then all of a sudden she settled in and she said, this is perfect. And then all of a sudden a Mandela effect happened. And now there's volcanoes all over Arizona. And she has picking out botflies off her leg. Oh, no. This is horrible. So all the fears came up. So she's going to deal with this. I'm going to deal with it. So she dealt with it. And now she doesn't get botfly incidents in Arizona. And, she's not as freaked out about the volcanoes. And in other realities, I never remembered volcanoes being in California. But I guess California has lots of volcanoes.
Yeah, evidently. Yeah.
That's new to me.
Yeah, I didn't know about it until I started watching Dutch Sense, and he was talking about, I don't know, these vapor vents and volcanoes, and I'm like, I didn't know about these, but
I guess, and I always try to look at the positive. So if I'm in a new reality, sometimes I'm like, is that the better reality? Where's I don't know. But there's volcanoes all over the West Coast. So volcanoes make more landmass. So maybe California won't go into the ocean.
right?
That's the only way I can think of a positive way to spin on it.
Yeah.
So, but the point is that everybody is going to be challenged to work out their repressed issues. And when you start what you do, balance of all this good stuff,
Right.
all this creativity, all these opportunities, all these different things. So you're like, okay, so I gotta prioritize. So you have the opposite problem. So that's instead of trying to figure out how to not lose everything or get stuck in the negativity, now you're swimming in so much positivity that it's overwhelming. So
right.
try to ground yourself and work on balancing all of the things that's going on in your life. So let's talk about unity consciousness and what life is like in the fifth dimension. And feel free to ask questions. I get plenty of examples. I get a lot of clients who are working on raising their frequency and working on manifesting greater experiences for themselves. So since everybody's on this path of awakening, they've already realized that they're the user in a holographic reality, and that the reality is a reflection of what they radiate at inside. So everybody's already awakened. So now the challenge is, if everything is amplifying and Earth is amplifying, that means everything that we do amplifies as well. So how do we exist in this higher frequency so that we don't drive ourselves nuts all the time? How do we become a conscious manifester? Okay, before we were doing it unconsciously, now we have to be conscious of it. So definitely work through all your fears. So if you are definitely afraid of spiders and snakes, guess what? you better deal with that and get some pesticide. Deal with your phobias. If you are afraid of like demons and devils and hell and all that, you better address that stuck perspective, because you will get those visitations. And you will get those nightmares, and they would drive you nuts. So find some way, instead of being fearful of it and giving it amplification and the energy to go out of control, find some kind of way to address it. So this was a phobia that I had. Even though I'm Buddhist, and I know in the greater reality it doesn't exist. But, I watched a lot of scary movies growing up, so they're really convincing.
Right.
They're really convincing. So I would get nightmares and visitations with lower astral beings. And I finally said, enough. I know this. I know about consciousness. I know my manifestation enough. And so what I know how to do is give a Dharma talk about consciousness and about reality and about you choose, who you want to be in every moment, and nobody tells you. So I gave a Dharma talk to these lower astral beings in my dreams. And then they were just sitting there and just listening and going, oh, I don't have to be so bad all the time. I don't think I'm going to bother anybody anymore. I'm going to go into the light and see what I can create. So I actually turned them around, and they don't bug me anymore. Now I don't have those nightmares and dreams about the lower astral beings, because I don't play their games, because they want you to play their games. That's what they've been taught for eons to do.
Right.
So I just gave them a Dharma talk and said, you know what? I'm not the one. If you're going to communicate with me, you're going to get more of the light, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And I taught them that. And now many of them said, oh, we'll find somebody else to play with. Or,
she's no fun.
she's no fun. Or they'll sit there and learn and then just be like, I'm going to go into the light now.
You like to actually transmute them then?
I've transmuted a lot of ghosts. So
Right.
a lot of ghosts have gone to the light because they realize, oh, I didn't know that. So,
right.
So those phobias and fears are, but you know, for other people, their fears are of like spiders and insect infestation, and they'll get more of that, and so they have to work on that. Go to Home Depot and get the appropriate stuff and take care of it. For for some people, their fear is that their loved ones are going to leave them, and so they act out in a way that drives their loved ones to leave them, and so then they have to get control of how they behave and act and see reality. And then by doing their inner work, that fear no longer exists. And so now they can have a much more peaceful relationship with their loved ones without driving their loved ones mad.
Now, isn't it funny that you brought up a really good point and a really good example of how the very thing someone fears is the very thing their actions bring about. It's like they don't want something, yet they do all of the things that bring that about because they're so focused on it. And it works across the whole, the whole plethora of everything. It's like the very thing you don't want is what you're like focusing on, and then that's what you end up bringing about for yourself. Isn't that strange the way that works?
Yeah, we're living slowly but surely. We are, Earth is magnifying, so everything's magnifying. So in the higher energies, in the higher dimensions, and we just crossed the threshold slowly, but things manifest faster. Okay, They manifest faster and they manifest quicker. So, so if they manifest faster and they manifest quicker, you don't want to be manifesting your worst nightmares.
Right.
This is horrible. You're like, I hate the fifth dimension. I don't want to go in there. Leave me in the third.
Right, but it's just all about learning to really take your thoughts captive and really be aware of what you're putting all your focus and energy into, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have a stuck and balanced perspective on something. And so if you just take a moment back and step back and take a look at the full picture, assess what your issue is. What is the fear that you have that's attached to this, that you keep attracting or that you're afraid of? What is the fear? And when you understand that, what the fear is and you address it, then you release that energy and it no longer becomes something that immobilizes you anymore. You no longer attract it.
So just a practical idea, like just to use this example that you just gave, instead of someone worrying about someone leaving them, what would be a better way for them to just to visualize a future where they're still together and no problems? Or how do they get in that vortex, if you will, of the right thought?
Right. Just like I said, there's like in Buddhism and Hinduism, there's multiple parallel realities. So you don't really change the reality, you just change yourself. And when you change yourself and you change your energy, you will go in the reality that is a fit match to you. And the parallel people and experiences that are a fit match to you will be in that reality. So you never change what's in the picture or in the mirror. You just change you. And when you change you, the picture changes.
Right.
Okay, we got to always remember that. So we need to stop trying to change everyone else, change everything else. Just accept it as it is. If something's a snake, it is a snake. You understand the boundaries that you need to have with this animal. If something's a Scorpio, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And accept it and work with what it is. You're not going to change it into a puppy.
Right.
So just accept the animals for what they are, accept people for who they are, and stop trying to change the greater reality, because this reality exists for the people in this dimension to learn and grow from. And if you just work on yourself, being the best version of yourself and raising your frequency and trying to manifest and be a conscious manifester in your own world, you will do the things that make you happy, the things that bring you love, the things that bring you excitement. You're going to go to work and you're going to love the things that you do at work. You may not love it all the time, but for the most part, you'll love it. You're going to be active and enjoy whatever body you have now and be grateful for that. You're going to be grateful for the people in your life. And before you know it, what everybody else does has no effect on your bliss.
Right.
Okay? They can do whatever they want, but that's their life. Because if you spend 2 hours telling them what to do, talking to them, helping them resolve it, then you spend 4 hours trying to do work around to try to set up the things to help them out. Then you go to bed and you spend another 2 hours thinking about, oh my goodness, I just spent 6 hours on this person's problem. You just spent half of your day living somebody else's life.
Right. And you're neglecting yourself at the same time.
You're neglecting yourself.
Yeah.
So you don't ever live in the future or the past. You only live in the present moment. And so if you're living one day at a time and trying to work with whatever elements you're working with at this present time and be present and do the best you can in whatever element you're working on right now, whatever this now moment is for yourself, that is putting the energy into bettering yourself and your creation. And so if you're spending all of your time on other people's problems, then you're not spending any time bettering yourself and your reality. So you're cheating yourself. It's an escapism. You're escaping from your life, trying to live and solve somebody else's life.
But on the flip side of that,
their life.
If you're putting the time into yourself, then you're going to see the world changing around you. You're going to see other people changing by changing yourself, because it's a reflection of yourself, right?
Right. So when you start spending time on, so like, you wake up, you brush your teeth, you get yourself all ready, good hygiene, everything else. You go to work, you are doing your thing. Maybe you chat with people here and there. You go home, you make dinner, you do all the things, but it's still you doing you.
Right.
You are doing you the best that you can, but you're not spending 4 hours on this person, 2 hours on this person, whatever. I mean, if it's your kids, I get that, but you're not getting stuck in somebody else's dramas. Okay. And really most of the time when you spend all your time on somebody else's drama, I call them projects. You don't really help them anyways. You
push them away usually.
Yeah, because now you're in their business too much.
Right.
So usually if you really want to help somebody, the sage old philosophy of do you the best that you can. And if they ask for help, give them a little bit of help to help them on the way so that they can carry on that work on their own. But if you love them enough, you're going to let them walk their own walk and go through their journey. And, they have to go through their own bottom so they can lift themselves up and jump from there. And if you're constantly in the way, then you're preventing them from having that epiphany moment in their life. And that's not really love.
Yeah. So once again, we see that we actually a lot of times will do the opposite of what's most beneficial for the situation.
Yeah, we're trying to help, but we're really not helping.
Right.
Really not helping. And it's funny because, when you actually, and it seems kind of cruel, like, what do you mean you're just going to let me do what, you're not going to help me at all? I was like, nope, you're going to find your own job.
Right.
Oh, okay. But I'll help you with the resume, but you're going to have to apply on your own.
Yeah.
You're going to do the interview on your own, but if you want help, I can ask you questions and you can practice on the interview skills. Right. Or, you're going to have to work that out with your spouse. Mm-hmm. But I can give you some suggestions on what's worked for me if you choose to use it or not. But again, you are helping, but not getting in on it.
Right.
Not getting deep in on it. Because most of the time, and there are some small cases here and there, but most of the time, people solve their own problems when they finally get to a point where they've had enough of the pain.
And you can't really push them you can't give them a shortcut, unfortunately. Yeah,
and that's the thing, and that's what keeps people in the lower dimensions, is that they think that hanging out in these lower dimensions is going to help their loved ones, but they're not helping their loved ones, because if they move on to a higher dimension, they're going to still have their loved ones, but they're going to see that by working on themselves, they now are experiencing a parallel reality with parallel versions of their spouse that has got it together.
Right.
They
Isn't
got
that
it.
amazing?
Yeah.
It's like you're shifting channels, like you were using the TV example, but almost like you're shifting to channels with a higher frame rate or whatever, and everyone is reflecting back to you this new paradigm, which gets us back to the whole Schumann resonance and the benefit of these gamma bursts that we're experiencing through the Schumann, and how we can benefit from these. Can we go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so they've done a lot of research in the last 20 years on studying thousands of Buddhist brains. And what they found in meditation research is that when somebody is meditating in transcendental meditation, and it doesn't even have to be meditation, they found it through meditation studies and mindfulness studies, but it can be anything can be meditation. It could be doing art, listening to music, creating music, gardening, doing Kundalini yoga. It can be anything that stops the mind from thinking. When you stop the mind from thinking, you get into a higher state of consciousness. You get into a gamma wave frequency. And in the human brain, the normal gamma wave frequency is 40 hertz. So in January, the Earth went up to about 50 or so hertz. So, we actually can catch up to her frequency when we are living in gamma. Mm-hmm. Okay? And when you're in gamma frequency, because gamma rays is the level of consciousness in which you reset the matrix, you reset your DNA. Energy healing happens in gamma. Mm. Monks would meditate and try to get to the part in transcendental meditation, and as a collective, they would start chanting good hymns and blessings to the world to have more peace and abundance. Once they all reach that frequency, they will have the outcome blessing. So that's what that level of consciousness is the gamma wave frequency. So since the Earth is moving into a 5D level of consciousness, of unity consciousness and oneness with everything, and people who want to go with Earth and experience that higher experience, one, they need to start doing the things to get in gamma more often. So get into your music, get into your art, get into your gardening, pet your dog if your dog gives you those good vibes that, make you not think about anything at all. Hug your children. Another really quick technique that always works to get people into gamma is just be in gratitude. Just be in gratitude. So when you are awakened and you're working on leveling up your consciousness, what happens is there are a couple of things that you can use to your disposal in this reality. You can use synchronicity. And synchronicity is basically, some events that don't seem related, but they have no direct connection, but it seems like they're connected. In Buddhism, the definition of synchronicity is that your soul groups are working together to make connections for you. However, it's up to you to discern if you want to take that sign or not. And not everybody does the things that they know they're supposed to do. Even if their soul groups set them up like, this is obvious, you want to take this job.
Right.
But whatever, you want to go on this date, but for whatever reason, they're holding themselves back because they're still hung up on something else. So it's up to you to discern if you're ready to take that next leap or not. But when you're living in these gamma wave frequencies and you're working on being a conscious creator of your reality, your soul groups will see that, this is an awakened person. They're on the path. They're not going to sit down and wait for things to happen. They're actually going to start putting a bit of themselves and doing some of the work, the footwork, to move towards a better reality. So your soul groups will, because they have a higher picture of things, they will find opportunities and people who have the next set of events that's right for you. You guys can kind of trade services or trade some kind of connection, and they will put those in place. So all you end up doing is just going from one nice experience that just perfectly matches what you're working on to the next thing that perfectly matches what you're working on to the next level that perfectly matches. It's almost like it was pre-planned. And so what you end up doing in this new type of existence, now that you have no lower frequency abundance blocks holding your energy down, is you're just constantly in a moment of gratitude where you're going, thank you, Lord or angels, for always having that great parking spot for me. Thank you for all of a sudden giving me this wonderful discount on this very expensive meal. Thank you for all of a sudden having the equipment that I need on sale right there, and so every single time something's happening, you're just constantly saying thank you. So you're living in a series of gratitude, and you're just constantly in that gamma wave frequency. And if you're in that gamma wave frequency, because of amplification, you're going to get more of it.
We all have something to be thankful for. Even when the worst things are happening, you can say, well, at least this didn't happen too. That would have made it worse. And you can be thankful that it's not as bad as it could have been. So, I mean, you can really always be thankful in every situation. Even if you get in a car wreck and you're like, well, thank goodness no one got hurt, or thank goodness no one got killed if someone did get hurt. I mean, there's always a positive aspect of anything that's going on.
Yeah. And even if you're stuck in traffic and you're just feeling really crummy that day because you have a lot going on, just take it and you start feeling that, just kind of that, that stuck energy coming up. Just take a moment and change the channel to a song that you like, so that music will usually reset people really well. And then you start being thankful for things. You know what? I'm really thankful that I have a car that gets me from A to B. I have the means to have insurance. That I'm going to a job and I have a job to go to. I'm really thankful, for all these, no one's hit me in this car accident. And then before you know it, the cars move away and you have green lights all the way through.
That's beautiful. So really the attitude of gratitude can keep you in these gamma waves all day long, even while you're at work or wherever you're at.
Yeah. And I know sometimes it does feel good to complain about things. I get it. Sometimes I like a little complain a little bit, but for the most part, don't get stuck in that too long.
Right. You can be thankful you have something to complain about, though, too, right?
Like, I can't believe they don't have, like black coffee.
Right.
At least they have coffee and you can put some more, milk and sugar on it. So, try to find some way to see a little bit more positive spin on it and be like, oh, that's a different way of looking at it. And when you change your perspective on something, you change your energy. And when you change your energy, you switch into a different parallel reality. You're always shifting into reality that is your perfect frequency. So, right. so it's just like they say in the Bible, all of a sudden they've gone in the flash.
Yeah.
Like your spouse has gone in a flash, and now you have a different spouse that, likes to clean and cook and change diapers and do all these things. You're like, wow, this is wonderful. It's a different person. It's your spouse in this reality, but it's a different version of your spouse from the other reality, because you're no longer conscious of that other reality. You're conscious of this reality.
That's awesome. And I heard recently, I was watching a documentary, and it was talking about how Tesla said he got a lot of his information from being in a higher vibrational state. And that's one of the things, it was really a synchronicity, because I realized I'd been seeing how we have a better connection to our higher self the higher our vibrations are. It's like we rise above all that chaos and distraction, and we can hear much more clearly and be much more intuitive when we have these higher vibrations. And I'm like, oh man, if you can just stay in that state, that higher vibrational state, then you can, you can get the guidance and stuff you need, and the intuition you need, and the discernment. All of these things are much better when you have the higher vibrations going.
Yeah. And sometimes you can be like, okay, so I don't have it. I worked on all my abundance blocks. I don't have anything holding my energy down. I've forgiven and let go of the anger that I had with this person, that person, this happened, whatever. Okay, so I worked on all of that, and I'm still getting some, I don't like this and this, and I don't like this and that. Well, I had somebody who, what she does is she journals all her issues that she has with reality. And just through journaling it, She released the energy, the stuck energy of being upset of how the reality is, and then she let it go, the anger go, and so it was an exercise in meditation. So even if you get into a part where you just everything just sucks, just sit down and journal it and contemplate it, and as you start doing that work where you're spending time looking at your thoughts and looking at you start realizing, this is just the external reality, and I just accept it and I let go of trying to change it. Okay, and we know that you can't change people; you just change yourself.
And it is sort of taking that step back and moving into compassion and unconditional love is like a huge factor in keeping the vibes up too, it seems like.
It really is. And they did this research, a couple of Russian doctors, Dr. Fritz Albert Popp, his research found that DNA is made of light. So even in the darkest areas, all DNA is made of small light particles. So everybody has a light body. Everybody's body is light. And that's what he found in his research, is all DNA is light. And that light surges energy. And that's why you can see in the microscope that DNA will emit light. And what they found in that research is, even looking at leaves that emit light in their DNA, certain leaves will be brighter than other leaves. And they don't know why. Why are certain plants brighter microscopically than other same type of plants? And so even in the plant kingdom, some plants have more light in them. They have more energy infused in them. And that's the same thing with people. People who are of higher frequency have more light. They have more energy in their DNA. And that's what Dr. Popp found out in his research on DNA. Now, his research was also inspired, I'll tie this in. His research was also inspired by two other Russian scientists who are very popular in this field, Dr. Peter Garyaev and Vladimir Popinin. And what they did in research, I think we talked about this in the last one, is what they did was they studied light waves. And they found that DNA communicates with each other through light somehow. And they recorded DNA or ultralight wave particles of a frog communicating with different frog embryos. And they played that light to a salamander embryo. And when that salamander was born, it was a frog.
That's amazing.
So all they had to do was transfer the light language. And so what they have been doing is they're coming up with new vaccines, what they call light wave vaccines, where they would just play, if somebody's having cancer or they're having some kind of illness, they will have light waves of a certain frequency just shoot at them.
Right.
And it will heal their cells. And they will heal from or get better quicker from that illness just by shooting different light rays at a certain frequency that tells their DNA, that they're better. Right. So that's what they found. That's what they're finding in DNA research, is that everybody's DNA is just light particles communicating with each other, radiating at different frequencies. And so when you are a higher consciousness and you're working on increasing your energy level, you have more energy, you have more light in your DNA. And because of that, you affect other people and the collective consciousness around you. You actually end up helping other people because they can't help but be affected by your positive vibes that you're emitting out.
Right, and I love that study that actually shows that your heart is so powerful, you actually emit this toroidal field that, as you're just walking near someone, it's affecting them. So just walking around, you don't even have to really communicate with people. Your field is crossing into their field, and they're affected by your high vibes. I mean, just walking through a crowd, you can being a high vibe person, you can actually make people feel better. They won't even realize it's because you're walking by them.
Yeah, there's really no one to convert. There's really no one to change. The best thing that you could do for yourself and other people in whatever reality you happen to permeate at the time is to work on yourself, raise your frequency, work on your energy, shift your perspective on anything that is bringing your energy down. And when you do that, you emit more light. You radiate at a higher energy. And, just like sacred geometry, they found in Buddhist mandalas, which I'm hoping to finish the first book in the next 2 months. But the Buddhist mandalas and in other religious artwork as well is that everybody has this big circle field aura around them. And that's basically the toroidal field of your heart. And in their brain, they also emit energy as well, a smaller version. So that everybody has this kind of like small halo. And that you see that over and over again in all Buddhist mandalas and in many other artworks in different traditions as well. And what happens is we all have this big energy field. And so when one person has this nice big round energy field and they're coming into close to somebody else's energy field will intersect. And what does that create? A Vesica Pisces.
Exactly.
Okay, that now we're playing together in the Matrix, and we're working out a new game because it's more fun to play with other people than to play in your own hologram. Mm-hmm. And so the more people intersect in their communication, the more of these Vesica Pisces keep on growing, and it creates the flower of life. Okay, and so we are just creating this big toroidal field, this big flower of life, and they found, and this is in my Buddhist mandalas 5D Awakening with Sacred Geometry. I explain how all sacred geometry and all spiritual and religious traditions are the same thing as talking about enlightenment and transferring to different parallel realities. And it goes back to over 13,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's been documented over 13,000 years ago. The same symbols were in ancient Indus Valley artwork. So maybe in the next follow-up one, I just basically just do things on sacred geometry, just explain it. So
that'd be really cool.
Yeah. So then you can be like, oh, you mean the Sri Yantra, the sacred Hindu symbol of enlightenment from 7,000 years ago, is got 64 points, which is the same 64 points in the flower of life symbol that you see everywhere, with 64 points in the DNA. Mm-hmm. 64 points in the I Ching of change, the Book of Changes in China, which is like the Star of David, and you start seeing all these things. You're like, oh, it's the yin yang symbol, and just on and on it goes. And we're all talking about the same thing. We're talking about enlightenment, raising your frequency, and going to different parallel realities that match your frequency. And that's all these traditions are talking about.
That's very good. Can we see how this factors in? I saw in your notes into like life review and the next life incarnation, and just the Buddhist view of how that works before we wrap it up.
Yeah. So when you work on all of these different things, since you are now a new level of consciousness, and now you know how to be a conscious creator, you're not creating suffering anymore unconsciously. Mm-hmm. You're trying not to create suffering anymore unconsciously. So you're not creating negative karma in which you're going to have to address in a future lifetime if you choose to experience life again in the greater reality, in whatever dimension or planet that you're in. And so now what happens when you go sit down with your life planner and you plan your next life, if you choose to incarnate from the spirit world again, is now you have even more options to choose from. You don't have to repeat the same lessons over again and with the same soul groups if you want to, but you have, it's almost like you have an unlimited potential of different ways to do it. So I'll give you some of my, I don't know about you, but I get lucid dreams of parallel lifetimes in the future. in the galactic. I do want to experience what a galactic future is like, and it's really kind of funny. I was telling somebody this too. So in that lifetime, I'm doing practically the same thing. I'm still an account manager for an IT company, but what we resell is we resell time travel excursions.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I'm account manager, and I have all these dealers who these different businesses who they sell time travel excursions to parallel realities, to parallel lifetimes, to different time frames. And so, like, if you wanted to see Sting or Def Leppard on the high, you can come back and have that excursion and go and see their best concert. That concert series is the biggest seller, by the way. the 80s or the mega artist concert series. You want to see Beethoven live? There you go. You can do the whole classicals. Just
That's very
one
cool.
really good show to another. So anyways, you want to see the crucifix? There you go.
Right.
But follow these certain rules. So
Right.
don't drop your cell phone into the cave they're gonna find like millions of years later. So anyways, but in this lucid dream future life, because when you get into hypnosis, you get to the point where you put yourself in hypnosis all the time. And so what was revealed to me was I was a time travel excursion consultant, and I still complain about some of my clients having unrealistic expectations. So I'm complaining about the same thing. I'm still thinking, I think I could do so much more for myself. And then my husband and I, and he works in a corporate environment too, and instead of making planes ship, okay, and we gutted out. We did a Home Depot on it. We gutted it out, and we made it into a space farm of all of these different fauna and vegetation from different galaxies in this big spaceship. And we have machines go and harvest, and I program all the elements of the planet. So like this one grows at this light, and my husband would go through and fix the machinery. So it would harvest, and in this reality, there is everybody travels through portals. They don't really, they can travel in cars or in machinery if they want to, but most people just kind of go through a portal. Mm-hmm. And so the machines would just send the food or the crates to whatever gate it was that we had contracts for, and they would just send it out. And then I still do wedding flowers. Like right now I do wedding flowers as a side thing on the weekends. I still do wedding flowers, and even though I have a plethora of beautiful fauna from different galaxies all over the place for my custom brides, I still get brides who have unrealistic expectations on what kind of fauna they want for their wedding. So I'm like, and then my husband, since he's still making music and the band comes and practice in our spaceship, they still argue about the same stuff, and he's still complaining about the music quality, the sound quality not being perfect for certain tunes or for certain songs. And he's complaining even though he played for a festival. Like right now he plays for festivals for 5,000 people. He plays for a festival in this future reality for 1 million people, televised to 5 galaxies, and he's still complaining about the same thing. So how does your lifetime now affect your reincarnation into future lives? That's how it affects. You just get a bigger, better ensemble of things to create and experience. And sometimes I have to remember, like, when I was a Chinese feudal lord and I was very good to my farmers, I gave them education, etc. I was complaining about how boring my lifetime was, and looking at this lifetime going, that looks so exciting. And here I am living in this life going, this is such a boring existence. I'm looking at my future lifetime as a time travel excursion consultant, being a space farmer, going, God, that looks so amazing. But the version of myself in that reality is going, God, this is so boring. I could do so much of myself.
And looking at the next thing with excitement.
Yeah, and even when I'm a life planner in the spirit world, I'm going, God, I think I could do so much more of myself besides helping people figure out what excursions they want to have.
So what it sounds like you're saying is like the issues that we deal with here, if we don't really figure them out or learn to accept them, or things will move and get better in a different way, but we'll still struggle with those same things that we complain about now. They'll just kind of carry along until you learn to deal with them, accept them, and not judge them, because I think that's really the main thing. We judge so much, and it's usually someone else other than ourselves,
Yeah,
and
we are the worst critics of ourselves. I mean, most
yeah,
of the time, nobody's really judging us for the most part. Most
right,
of the time, it's us being our own worst critic and
yeah,
holding ourselves back. And if we just take a moment and just, even if you just, are feeling kind of stuck, or you're not really feeling like you're fulfilling your best potential, just take a moment and just be grateful for the life that you have now. And
yeah.
I find ways to be grateful for it, because in whatever lifetime that you have, you're still going to complain. I think it's a part of human nature. I really do.
It is.
So
It just
it's almost like you're going to Disneyland and all the excursions are so wonderful. And you're like, well, that mountain could be better than this mountain. That ride looks better than that ride. And you're on the best ride. And you're like, well, I think this could be better. Which is a little jaded sometimes.
it really is, and it really gets back to what you were saying earlier, just having that attitude of gratitude. I mean, it stretches beyond this lifetime and into the next, right?
Yeah. So in the very simplest thing, if anybody can take anything away from today's talk, it is to just, whatever you're doing, just start counting your blessings, just be grateful, and whatever it is that's going on in your life, it will slowly melt away, because you're in that gamma wave frequency.
Hmm.
And then be aware and be on the lookout for those synchronistic events, like those angel numbers that pop up all over the place in your receipts, on the driveway, in the odometer, whatever, just to kind of let you know, hey, we're here, we're working for you still. So don't give up on yourself. Keep going. You can look at reality as a mirror. Usually, remember, reality is just mirror. It's just the feedback loop. It's just sending back to you what you were sending out. So, like, for instance, if you are working on an issue, more than likely somebody in your circle is working on a similar issue, or they have already overcome that exact same issue that you have, and you
Hmm.
can learn from them.
Right.
So, reality is a feedback mechanism. So you can look at your reality and see, where are the solutions in my existing reality? And you can learn that way. You can, again, there's the concept of conditional love versus unconditional love. And there's really no such thing as conditional love, because even conditional love is unconditional.
Hmm.
Like, I love you, but I'm going to be these boundaries so that you don't push people to work on their issues so they can become a better risk. It forces them to work on the things that they need to work on so they can learn to be reliable, integrous. And then once they do that, they get so many more opportunities just thrown at them. So even conditional love really isn't conditional if you think about it.
Hmm.
They're just training wheels that slowly come off.
Right.
Same thing with your work. You may feel that you want more out of your job and out of your work. But if you start doing the little baby steps and doing the things that you need to do at work, opportunities will come through, because people will start seeing that you are producing the quality of work that they like, and then you're going to have an issue with trying to balance, well, which project do I want to take on, and trying to make sure that you can give a good appropriate time and do integrous work in whatever you're doing. Same thing with family. The thing is that in any reality that you go to, what I find is that many of the realities, especially the lower realities, as you move away from it, people aren't really connecting on a heart-to-heart level. People don't touch each other. They don't hug each other like they should. Like, somebody will sit there and cry about something difficult, and no one will hug them. There's something wrong with that picture. So if you say somebody really have a hard time, ask them, is it okay that I give you a hug? Because you look like you need a hug.
Hmm.
Touch people. It's okay. Ask if you feel like, you need that permission because they're not your best friend or your kid or whatever. But out of 8 billion people in the world, you are present in that moment with them for some reason. So make it count. Make it count. So be present. Look them in the eye. Give them your undivided attention. Turn off that phone. Stop answering and looking at the TV while they're talking. Give them that moment. Because those small moments of connection do raise their frequency and your frequency. And it could be the thing that keeps them from doing something bad to themselves or other people.
Absolutely. Many times it is the little things, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And so people really need to learn. A lot of people are so desensitized from too much technology, too much violence on TV. I see this a lot in younger millennials that come for hypnosis, that the parents had bought them a session. They're so desensitized that they can watch a movie of somebody getting raped and not be affected. There's something wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's because it's been a while since they've been hugged or, affection has been given to them as well. So it shouldn't be that way where people have gone so long before making a human connection with somebody, of intimacy and compassion. So just be like that all the time. And so that people feel like they're not alone in the world and that they do have people, even if it's a stranger. Like I was out last Friday with a girlfriend to a club to go watch a show, and there was this homeless lady. I never have cash on me, so I'm one of those who never have cash on me, but my girlfriend does, and so she gave the lady some cash, and then we gave her a hug, and she cried, and we were like, everything okay? And she's like, no one's ever hugged me for such a long time.
Oh.
Nobody's ever touched her in such a long time. So it wasn't even the money that made her day. It was the hugs.
The human connection.
The human connection. Yeah. So if you want to change reality, be the best version of you and make those connections with other people. You don't have to say anything.
Very well said, Vaughn.
Yeah.
Want to definitely have you back again. This is awesome.
Oh.
I always enjoy our talks, and I know everybody else does too.
Thank you. Well, maybe next time we'll go a little scientific. We'll go in, and I will explain sacred geometry. Deep dive.
Yeah, we can even share. You can share your screen and share some images if you have them, and we can do it that way too. So I want to remind anybody that popped in here late that I do have Von Galt's links down below in the description box, so you can go check out our website, check out our YouTube channel, and subscribe over there. Check out our books on Amazon. A lot to offer, and you're even a QHHT practitioner. So if you are you're in Seattle area, right?
I am in Seattle. So if you're in Seattle, you can definitely schedule one with me. If you're not in Seattle, and you're going through your awakening or you're trying to figure out your abundance blocks, in my website, there's plenty of blog articles on a lot of topics there that could help you out as well. Demystify a lot of this stuff, but then also my client intake form on the website. If you actually print it out and fill it out honestly, you will get to the point where you understand where your stuck blockages are, and you can start working on them. So you don't even need a 4-hour QHHT session.
Very good.
And you can actually do it. You can print it and do it with other people to get other people's perspective on your abundance blocks that maybe you didn't see something that they saw.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Fawn.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Lots of love and light to each and every one of you guys and all of you watching later, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace. Be sure to check out the website at uotf.net. There you will find the live stream schedule displayed in your local time right there on the front page. Below that, you'll find links to take the Beyond Quantum Healing course at a discounted rate, purchase our book, Mandela Effect, Friend or Foe, in paperback or ebook, or to contact me to schedule a BQH session. At the top of the site, you'll find links to help support the work I do, access the free private forum where you can discuss organizing get-togethers in your area, Mandela effects, and more. Thank you all so much for being here.